Welcome back to the Castaway Consultants, where we teach future Survivor players how to play the game by criticizing current players. Today, we are looking at Survivor 47, Episode 2, Epic Boss Girl Move. I'm one of your co-hosts, Josh Wessler, joined today by Ryan Stacy and Derek Kubicek. How
Hello,
are you guys
hello.
doing?
We're pretty good, considering we're not with you in person, which makes me sad.
Yeah, sad day.
But you know what makes me happy? Good Survivor.
I was entertained tonight. I don't know
It was
about you
great.
guys. We haven't been able to talk about the episode much, so I'm excited to hear your guys' thoughts.
Yeah, you were sending your IMs, but it's just not the same. I mean, even looking at you now in 1080p resolution, it's just not the same. But a treat for the listeners on the YouTube audience. I suppose you're probably going to have the flashing back and forth today. This episode had a couple cringy moments just stacked in the middle here, but it all found its way back around to good, reliable Survivor gameplay, and it was fun to watch.
It was really fun. It was a satisfying conclusion. There's someone on the season I've discovered I really would not want to be on the island with. It was a fun episode. I was really into this episode.
Oh, interesting. I'm excited to hear who that is.
I think many people may agree.
Yeah.
I don't know if I fully agree, but I mean, I see it. I see it. I do get it.
Okay.
Yeah, solid episode. Really fun. Spoiler alert. Should we get into spoilers?
I don't think there's anything else to be said. I think we can just get right into it. So if you haven't watched the episode, I think it gets at least an endorsement from all of us to go and do that. So if you haven't, pause this episode. 3 spoilers coming. 2, 1. We lose TK tonight.
Shocking. If you told me going into this episode that TK was going home, I don't know if I would have believed you. But it makes complete sense, and I enjoyed every second of it.
Yeah, I mean, even just according to our danger zone that we post each week, the highest was Derek, shockingly, 5th from the bottom. Like, he had him 5th most likely going home. So kudos to Derek. But, I had him halfway down my list. Ryan was very close to the top of his list as far as safest. So I would say mostly unexpected from us.
And the only reason I put him that low in the danger zone was because he knew about Gabe's idol and was not in Gabe's primary alliance. I know that Carolyn wasn't roped in there yet, so it was Sue and Gabe, and I was like, okay, how does Gabe play this idol to clean this mess up? And it would be taking out TK. That's the only reason I had him that low. I didn't think that it was necessarily sensible for the tribe to turn on him, but oh boy howdy, how just a couple days can really shift the sentiment.
Yes. Yeah, really fun. Love seeing him go here. He kind of dug his own grave, and it was really great. Well, should we jump into the episode proper?
Absolutely.
All right, so the episode begins over on the Lavo tribe. Rome is going to fill in Teeny about where he's at on his idol quest. This is, I feel like, almost inadvertently an okay move for Rome, just because he got caught almost in the water well last week, and so nobody trusts him. I don't think he knows that, but like trying to tell somebody about his idol that like everyone already suspects he has or where he's at, I think inadvertently was a good move because he could really only go up, it seemed like.
Yeah, knowing all the information, good. But like you said, I don't know if he actually knows how much people were onto him. So I almost kind of want to grade him on what he probably knows right now. And honestly, if that's the case, maybe not the greatest thing to do.
Let's try and do what great Survivor players do, and let's link the social and strategic game together here. Rome thinks he's playing an absolutely knockout social game, and he is playing not a great social game.
Real bad.
However, trying to strategically link the two together by showing off the idol is maybe the best thing he can do in a bad situation that he has put himself in. So I agree with Ryan that he kind of fell backwards into the necessity of the move. There's a better way to do this, but I don't mind this for Rome at this point. And I trust him picking Teeny to bring in on it.
Teeny's a great pick.
And luckily, it's going to be followed by a bad move.
So Teeny does not trust Rome, wants Rome out. So Teeny's going to tell Keyshawn about the whole situation. Teeny's going to take Keyshawn over to the idol box that Rome showed Teeny. And as they're looking at it, Rome walks up and I'm like, hey, what you guys doing? Why are you looking at my idol box? So Rome gets the idol, and he decides because there's too much heat on him, he's just going to do the idol for one tribal council. Smart.
Great
at
move.
that point. Yeah. And Teeny's gonna try and explain their way out of it. Kind of works, kind of doesn't. Rome doesn't fully trust Teeny anymore. Yeah, interesting. You got to be real careful when showing people idle stuff.
Yeah, I think they got their hand caught in the cookie jar here when they brought Keyshawn over and they got found out about all of this. I don't think there's anything they're going to be able to do to be able to repair that. So this idol, making the decision on Rome's part at least to make the idol just a single tribal idol, play it, burn it. Especially if you got a lot of attention on you, it's gonna work perfectly for him if he actually does it correctly.
Yeah, Rome is gonna save himself for one, and then he's gonna go home.
Probably. That extra time, sometimes that's all you need.
Rome makes it worse for himself because he just spends the rest of the episode just annoying everybody because he doesn't shut up, and he's great at everything. And Rome is the person who would drive me absolutely nuts. I don't know what I would do if I was on a tribe with him. I think I would lose it.
So I don't think, weirdly enough, that I agree it was good for Rome to take the idol for one tribal council. I think that because he thinks he's playing a good social game, that maybe he made a good move, but because he is playing such a bad social game, he needed a fully powered idol. Because the game you're not playing is getting people to like you and vote for you at the end. So you kind of need to like muscle your way to the end and show that you've got a bigger, louder, speaks for itself type of game that nobody can ignore. But there's dissonance between what he thinks he's doing and maybe what the audience is being fed by the edit. So based on the edit, I think he needed a fully powered idol. But based on how awesome he thinks he is, and Rome, if you're a big fan of the podcast, just, I say it with love, separate the person from the player here.
He has done podcasts before.
Yes. And he would love to do On Fire someday. Cue the On Fire graphic on the TV immediately after he says that. That was a great editing move by Survivor.
So point being, if he had a little bit higher awareness of where he was at, I think that he would want a fully powered idol. But if he thinks he's playing well socially, yeah, you take the one expiration.
Over on Tuku, TK and Kyle have a tight alliance, but they don't fully trust Gabe anymore with the whole idol shenanigans. So they want to bring in Tiana as their third person and make Gabe their fourth. So yeah, TK convinces her, at least at first, by saying, yeah, the guys' alliance is not happening. We want you and you, me, and Kyle.
Were you getting vibes at this point that Tiana might have been kind of a floater,
yes,
like kind of out there just on her own, hadn't really connected with anybody strategically yet?
That's kind of how I felt, yeah.
That's the vibe I was getting. I just want to point out that if that's what's happening over on Tuku, we need to do a better job to bring Tiana in on something earlier than whenever this was. Now, I know the edit might be getting us, and this could be happening on day 2 or whatever, but make people feel welcome right away. Then you don't have floaters like Tiana when you're trying to create like contingency plans.
Bond with everyone that you can bond with.
Yes.
Well, and it's especially odd on Tuku just because simultaneously as that dynamic's happening, it seems like they're also trying to keep Gabe on the outs.
Yep.
Like they're like, the three of them were in the water talking. I don't remember if it was at this exact moment or later on, but it's basically like, oh, we should probably, rope Gabe in just, to make him comfortable. I don't really know what the strategy here is that you're really going for. You have a tribe of 6. You need more than just 3 people. Get a solid 4 together and not, a person floating over here and, someone else who is just being brought in and isn't going to feel super solid over there. Just overall not great.
Agreed. On Gata, Andy is feeling much better because cut to the tribe cheering him on constantly. Annika says it best, like Andy is someone who needs words of affirmation. Correct. And they're doing it. They're putting in the work, especially Sam. Because Sam is going to babysit Andy while the girls go idol hunting and basically try to talk Andy out of idol hunting because Sam wants to use Andy if he can. Because Andy trusts Sam. Sam goes to the bathroom and Andy's going to go idol hunting immediately. Find the beware advantage and leave it. He's going to think about it and come back for it later, which, to be fair, is something like people should consider doing. You don't have to take it right away, but think quickly.
When the beware advantage says once you take it, like you're committed. It means when you open it, not when you grab it off the branch. But I'm curious, there's just a conversation between Andy and Sam talking about like, oh yeah, we probably shouldn't go look for the idol because, it might lose like trust and we're trying to build that back and yada yada yada. Do you like this move by Andy? Like, is he in such a bad spot that he needs to be going out looking for the idol, or should he, the opposite, be trying to just get his way back into the good graces of Sam and the others?
Both.
Well, you can't do both. You can't do both.
He has to do both. That's how bad of a spot he's in.
I have a really hard time with this because the only way I've already stuck a fork in Andy, so I have a hard time grading his game because he is in a bad spot publicly among all the tribes. He's in a bad spot on his tribe. And I mean that like he might not go home because Sam is using him. But he's not going to be able to put anything together, like any semblance of a successful winner-worthy Survivor game because of what happened. It would take a lot, and he would have to not be himself. I think the best move that I can come up with is maybe he gives the Beware advantage to Sam. Like he shows it to him and says, if you want this, it is yours. I want to work with you. I found it, but I want you to take it. If you want it, and I will help you. Because then it's like, yeah, I found that for you. I'm doing you this favor. I see what you're doing. I don't like him leaving it. I think between leaving it and taking it, where he's at in the tribe, he should take it.
I agree with Derek.
But I think a better move might be showing it to Sam. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
He needs to take it, maybe not do it all at once, do it in pieces, so he's not gone for very long, and then focus on the social game. So yeah, I think he does need to take the Beware advantage here. But he also needs to get back in the graces. So I revert to my answer of both.
and
so easy. Such an easy answer.
Look, I never said Survivor was easy. The way I say things, I may make it sound like it's supposed to be easy. I know it's not.
Well, no, the fact that Andy finds himself in a paradox is exactly what I was saying. Yeah. He's already got such a tough road to the winner's podium.
Yeah.
That he needs to somehow do two things at once.
Yes.
And it's hard.
So Sam is going to tell Annika that Andy went idol hunting. So they are going to look for it themselves. And yeah, like you don't necessarily want to go idol hunting with other people, but like they need to not let Andy get this thing. So I kind of get it here. It's not a deal, but it's necessary. Sam is going to find it and take it. And he's not going to go all the way with all the idol keys and stuff. He's going to, take a break. But he is going to tell Sierra. Annika is going to go tell Rachel about what happened. And Sam's like, I got to tell Rachel before Annika does. He's not quick enough, like, to beat her there, but I think he is quick enough that he might be able to, like, still keep a good relationship with Rachel.
Yeah, plausible deniability. Like, this happened 30 minutes ago, and I'm not just running around screaming about this because I also don't want Andy knowing about it. So now everyone knows except Andy.
So I like this for Sam. It's a dangerous game. But it is kind of necessary in this situation because we can't let Andy get this thing. Lo and behold, Andy goes to try and get the Beware advantage, and it's gone. So Andy's going to go tell Sam what happened, and Sam's like, oh, those dastardly girls, what are they up to?
Oh my gosh, no way.
We're looking for the guy who did this.
Could be anyone.
But it does make Sam trust Andy a little bit more. So Sam is leaning towards using Andy in the future. Dangerous game, Sam.
Dangerous game. Not sure if I can support that move. The one thing I did like, though, from this sequence is how close we found out that him and Sierra are. Sam and Sierra. Just because it's like, yeah, very clear number ones. And Sierra feels that as well, it seems like.
With Andy drawing all eyes, it's easy to forget that there are 4 other people that might have their tendencies and their desires and their games going forward without John Lovett here, right? Like, we were down a tribe member. Now we need to find a 3. And it's kind of strange. Like, there's 4 people. They don't seem to perfectly click. And it seems to be maybe like Annika is a floater, Rachel is a floater. They gravitate to each other a little bit. And then Sam and Sierra as a duo, and then Andy as their very easy, like, hey, hopefully we get to emerge before we have to remove more than one person.
But yeah, Sam and Sierra, they're going to go get the idol box to open, and Sam is going to end up just keeping the one tribal council idol because the idea was to make sure Andy didn't get it, and now we can maybe use it on Andy and knock out Annika or Rachel. So I do like this for Sam to not go for it. He's not getting ahead of himself.
I also don't love the math on Sam's part when he said that. I'm like, but you have 3. Like if you're telling Sierra about this plan, like that's already 3.
Yep.
Math.
Just talking options out.
The thing to keep in mind is that it's only good for one tribal.
Yep.
So he has to, like, if he's going to use it, he has to use it when they go to tribal.
I mean, you don't have to.
You're right.
You could keep it and use it as a fake idol in the future, even though it's a dead fake idol.
You could.
You could use it in the future and be like, hey, like I'm going to use this on myself, or I'm going to gift it to you, or whatever it might be. Regardless, I hated that he told Sierra this plan. Mull it over and wait until it actually comes up.
Sure.
Just to discuss it as an option, something more casual. He seemed very upfront about like, maybe we use it here. And she did not seem interested. She's going to roll with it, it seems like, but she doesn't seem super comfortable with it.
I'm getting major showman's vibes here.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not just because of the next time on Survivor. I was feeling it here. I was like, are we going to keep pulling away from the Bachelor and Bachelorette here with successful relationships?
This reminds me a lot of Jessica and Cole from Heroes, Healers, Hustlers. Maybe it's because they're on a yellow tribe again, but yeah, it reminds me of them. Over on Tuku, the plan, TK, Kyle, Tiana, and Gabe, they all talk and say, hey, we're going to take out Sue first. Gabe says he's in. He is not in. He doesn't want to do that.
But let's talk about the cell, though.
Yeah.
He does the Boston Rob move. So, like, Gabe does a lot of things that we recommend on this podcast a lot tonight. This is one of them. He does the old Boston Rob fist bump, let's do it, and then turns around, looks at the camera, and we're not doing that.
Yeah.
It was very good. Like I bought it,
But he's going to go over to Caroline and talk to her about not going along with the Sue vote. And Caroline's really skeptical to his face, which I did not like from her. Like, go along with what he said. You don't have to trust him. You don't tell him that you don't fully trust him yet. Just go along with it.
It's basically the exact opposite of what Derek was just saying.
Yep.
You have all the good of how Gabe acts in front of people, and then you have all the bad of how Carolyn acts.
Yeah.
Even if you don't agree with it, just say yes.
Just say yes.
Awesome. Majority. You're not going home.
You don't have to go along with it. It's going to work out for her because of her skepticism. Gabe kind of panics and shows her the idol to try and win her over. So it works out nicely for her in this episode, but I don't like that going forward for her.
Yeah, very quickly going one layer deep. What does Carolyn think is going on in the background here? Like, if she thinks that there is, in fact, a bromance going on between the 3 guys, she should be really happy that there is a guy out there who's at least willing to bring her in on a plan, and that makes it less likely that they're targeting you. Like, if there is a bromance, you want to make sure that they're not targeting you when that bromance comes into fruition. So, Caroline, you're acting like someone who just graduated from business school and thinks that she's got to read on people. Do you want to know what kind of person says, I just graduated business school and I can read people? The person who just graduated business school and says, I think I can read people. I took a college class on this one time, so I'm an expert. Sorry, that was what I was feeling as she was going through this. I'm glad that she came to. I think it's better for her game.
This tells me that she has not had a lot of conversations with other people.
Mm-hmm.
At least one-on-one, maybe in group settings, sure, or just super casual here and there, but actually like getting to know people or talking strategy at all, it seems like basically the only person she's talked to at this point is Sue.
Yeah, that's what I felt like too. Sue, Tiana, TK, and Kyle, they're gonna go to the beach and nap, except TK doesn't feel like napping. He's just gonna yap the whole time. Really annoys Sue and Tiana. So Tiana tells us she doesn't particularly like TK, but she's willing to work with him. That's a great attitude. It will change because the episode continues on, but I do like her attitude so far. You don't have to like someone to work with them. That is very true. Something I struggle with greatly. I have a very hard time in my real life working with people I don't like. It's very hard for me, but it's a good skill to have.
But the most famous example on Survivor, we love referencing Kasaya. Kasaya tribe, we do not like each other, but we need each other.
Yep.
It won Aris the game.
Yes, it did. It's a great skill to have. At the immunity challenge, Gata is gonna win. So yeah, something to be said for keeping Andy. It worked out for him this time. Lava's gonna get second. I do love this for the Gata tribe. Rachel was trying to steal rice that they were using in the challenge. They had these big bags of rice. Rachel tries to steal rice and put it in her pockets, and Jeff catches her and makes her dump it out. It's really funny.
I respect the effort.
A lot of respect. Go for that. I love it. Oh, why not? It was
It
there.
might, yeah. The worst thing that can happen is that, Jeff outs you in front of the other two tribes. Your tribe is not going to care.
No.
But like the other two tribes might see it as being like, ooh, Rachel's sneaky, or, she's always looking for an advantage, or whatever it might be. Like that is the worst thing that could happen here.
Yeah. Totally worth it. Even Jeff's like kind of gives her props.
Be sneakier.
Be sneakier.
And I don't think that he saw her. I think production in his ear told him.
Maybe, yeah. That's super likely. I mean, there's cameras on you the whole time. But yeah, so Tuku's gonna lose, and after when Jeff is talking to them after the challenge, it's like, oh man, I see a lot of smiles for a tribe that's going to tribal council, and this TK is pissed. And it's funny because the part of the challenge where they lost was TK's part of the challenge, so it's a little rich of him to, try to call this tribe out when he's part of the reason they lost. Yeah, okay, you don't have to be happy about going to tribal council, but just chill out.
Yeah, and he was having a really hard time keeping a cool head during their final leg of the challenge. Whenever someone messed up a little bit or the communication was off, it seemed like he was always ready to blame someone else. Yep. So, it might be part of his personality. Who knows?
I was going to say this felt like a bit of a retrospective spin from him, but we're going to get back to the tribe eventually. And when he talks about it, he says, I see myself as a leader. I'm a kind of a culture driver on this tribe. And I took that as you're acting as like a coach, or in other words, on Survivor, the tribe dad.
Yeah, he wants to be the leader.
Don't do this. I do think his emotion got the best of him in the moment, but the way that he spun it was, I'm the leader. I'm like, you do realize that both of these are bad. And I would argue that like one emotional moment is not as bad as trying to be the tribe dad and trying to frame it like that. So just be very careful. And as it's going to happen, you have to own up to these mistakes, but I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. It rubs people the wrong way.
Yeah, not everybody was on like a football team. Like that sort of mentality is not going to help you on Survivor. Mm-hmm. It's just not. But yeah, so Tiana's pissed. Everyone's kind of pissed at TK. Even like Kyle can kind of tell, like, yeah, that wasn't really cool. But Kyle wants to make peace with his alliance, so he brings TK and Tiana together. And TK does apologize. And they're going to go back to work and take out Sue. And Gabe even says he's in. He's not, but he says he's in.
Yeah, Gabe, good job by Kyle. Like, yeah, that's what you have to do. You're so far along here with your original plan that, you can't lose a member. You got to bring these people together.
Make peace.
Yep, mediator, absolutely.
Gabe, Carolyn, and Sue, their plan is to force a tie and get Tiana to flip at the tie. They don't think she'll go to rocks for TK. Great read. I love this read from them. Like, it doesn't go to the tie. They managed to flip her ahead of time, but that read I think is just so great from their part.
Now, yeah, good on them for being able to read that, but from, all accounts in the edit, they were willing to go to rocks.
Yeah, Sue, Carolyn, and Gabe were willing to go to rocks.
Right move?
Carolyn, yes. Caroline, I think it's Caroline. Caroline,
okay.
Yes. Because if Sue goes, she's next. Or maybe Gabe. I get it. They're all in a bad spot.
And we saw almost this exact thing on Survivor. I think it was 45 with Jam Jam. 44 with Jam Jam. Jam Jam and Carolyn, they play chicken and they flip Carson. And that changes the tide of the entire game. I mean, just look at the final four.
Yep.
Sometimes it's better to stand your ground early and risk it up front, which, by the way, if we want to talk about Derek takes that sometimes are crapped on by other co-hosts of this podcast.
Yeah, Josh.
I don't want to hear it, Ryan. It was both of you. Sometimes you do need to stand firm and be willing to go to rocks early in the game to set yourself up on a proper foundation. Now, did I introduce that at a time that maybe it was the best? I would have to go back and check the tape.
Yeah, I don't remember when I introduced it.
But we've seen it in 44 and we see it again here. It is good to set yourself up on a good foundation.
Yeah, if you are the weaker or bottom members of the tribe, yeah, there's definitely a time and a place for that for sure. I'll give you your props and your flowers for that.
Yeah, you have to flip the coconut chop when you can.
Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. Even if it's episode 2. Episode 1, not so much. Episode 2, I think, yeah, we saw it tonight.
Yes.
But yeah, Sue and Caroline, they want to go to work and pulling Tiana over ahead of time, and that is what is going to work. At Tribal Council, okay, so I had to go look this up because we missed this because of the tornado alert last time. So Gabe did get his idol up to good for 3 Tribal Councils. We did not see that. So yeah, it's apologies if last week's was a little confusing there. I was confused going into this episode. Like, wait, what does Gabe have?
How powerful is it?
So I had to go find a recap. Frickin' tornadoes.
Yeah. Well, is he Super Saiyan or is he Super Duper Saiyan? I don't know what's going. Level 9,000. I don't know what's going on.
So Gabe is going to play the idol on himself. It was not the last night to play it. He still had 2 more tribals with this thing. But it doesn't matter. It's 4 votes for TK, 2 votes for Sue. I love the TK boot. I love it for those 4.
I mean, it's good for those 4. Once they decide to flip, they could have just as easily stuck with the other 4 and been in a core 4. So I think the 2 people in the quote unquote middle, if you even want to consider that, Gabe and Tiana, they're going to be fine no matter what. It seems like, even though they're not communicating with each other about any of this, it seems like they're both going to move in the same direction. So I think it's just up to them. And if they feel much more strongly about how their game can roll going forward, with Caroline and Sue, then sure, I'm fine with it.
I think this is absolutely the right move. And I'll take it one step further. I think it was the right move for Tiana to flip right away. If you're going to do it now at the first tribal. And if you don't vote with them right away, that might make you number 4 in this brand new alliance. And we have to remember, she thought that she was in a 3. So I think it's really important, again, for her optically. Like, Sue and Caroline see that she was willing to go to rocks while thinking Gabe was on the other side. So I think it puts all 4 of them on about as equal footing as they can be, which, that might be good or bad for everyone in there, but they're willing to take that bet and reset the game board with TK no longer a part of it. I was telling Ryan mid-episode, if Kyle catches wind of this, or if they do force a tie, I think that both Kyle and Tiana should have flipped their votes to TK. Because I think that there are many more options going forward with Sue and Caroline than there is with TK at the helm. So it's a really interesting dynamic, but ultimately the right person went home, and it was a fantastic payoff.
And that just shows that this is a pretty low risk environment for Gabe to make this move. So he's free to go wherever he feels most comfortable, which is why I'm trusting him on it, because if it is just 3-3 and they tie it up, like you said, they feel pretty strongly that people are going to flip, especially if those other 3 stay nice and strong. It'll be like, yeah, I'm not ready to give up my game for TK. Let's go.
No, I don't love that Gabe played his idol, but the one good thing that he has going for him is that might get some of the heat off of him.
I wonder if he did that because of how public it is that, Gabe is out there. Yeah, he's saying he wants to just be an adventure, but that means idols go along with that. So, burn it, even though it's available for a couple of tribals, and then maybe you can get it off your back. And if you want to find idol later on, maybe just be a little sneakier about it.
And that was exactly my thought. If he feels like he can save it, that's fine. But I'm also okay with just burning public advantages. And on this podcast, we are very proud stands of burning public advantages at first opportunity to just, hey, get the weight off your back. And again, this new alliance of 4, we are now on an even playing field. If you go into this alliance of 4 and 2 people know that Gabe has an idol, they might be able to tell Tiana, hey, Gabe has an idol. Did he tell you about that? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, Gabe is on the bottom of the 4 and has to play his idol anyway to save himself. That's why I think I'm actually in camp. He needed to burn this idol to be in his best position going forward. Now, if he'd have saved it, I'd have been fine with that too. Because then Tiana is number 4 if they can keep the secret together. But point is, now as long as you can maneuver, it's really in the power's in your hands, and I like that.
I also love Kyle's reaction. Just the no to TK's vote.
No,
it was great.
Well, that's exactly how I feel I would feel, especially so early on in the game when a close member of your core group of 3 or 4 that you have going, it's like you feel your game completely just slip out of your hands in that moment. And I think he realized it in a couple of ways, just like, oh crap, like this guy went home. Oh crap, I am the one person on the outs. Like, what am I gonna do? So I kind of feel bad for him.
Oh, I absolutely feel bad for the guy, but it was very funny.
Super random note. It's been bugging me who he looks like. To me, he looks like the one dude from Cabin in the Woods, the
Marty?
one stoner dude.
Yeah, he does kind of
Yep.
look like a Marty.
And I realized that tonight, so I had to bring it up because it was bugging me.
If you're interested in the movie Cabin in the Woods, Josh and I did a podcast episode of the How to Survive a Horror Movie podcast, my other podcast, where we talked about the movie The Cabin in the Woods. So you can check that out. So we all thought this was the right move. What did Twitter think?
Yeah, and sorry for last week. Completely forgot to post or talk about the poll that we posted. Spoiler alert: a lot of people agreed with us.
I was gonna say we weren't in mid-season form yet.
Yeah, we were a little rusty.
Exactly. As is the way with this poll, 90% of people said that yes, this was the right move tonight.
Good for Twitter. All right, let's get into best and worst player of the episode. Josh, start us off. Who's your best player of the episode?
I think that there are two choices here. I'm going to give Gabe an honorable mention, but I'm going to go with Sam here just because I think that there was so much going on during his, roundabout with the Beware advantage and how he worked in all of the women in his alliance to make them all seem like, he trusts them and is able to share this information with them, but then also has Andy there and is able to connect with Andy regarding the Beware advantage. I just think overall he handled a very chaotic situation extremely well. Like I said, honorable mention to Gabe, but I'm leaning Sam here.
You know what? I was originally thinking between Sue and Sam. Sue helped take out TK. That's great for her. I think Sam juggled a lot of balls here and did a really good job with it. I think Derek did convince me to give it to Gabe, though. I think I have landed on that. I think the idol play was the right move, so I am going to give mine to Gabe.
Wow, I appreciate that, Ryan. Hey,
Yep.
Hey. I appreciate that.
I change my mind once in a while.
Yeah, every once in a while. Mine was Gabe as well, obviously, but the reason that I have Sam as my honorable mention and kind of took him like a notch below Gabe is because of what happened with Sierra at the water well. Now, ultimately, in confessional, Sierra says, I'm gonna go with Sam. I'm gonna do this, which you could call it a good read by Sam, but it's still a chance. He said one of the reasons I want to keep Andy around is I would be scared if it was me and 3 girls. Talking about an all women's alliance to a woman that you've known for 5 days or 4 days. That's a bold move.
Yep.
It may not pay off for you. And then also Annika sees him as a huge threat because of all of the balls he's juggling as well. So those are 2 little things, one in his control, one out of his control. Whereas I think that Gabe had a pretty flawless episode. So I gave it to Gabe.
For worst, I'm going to go with Rome. Terrible social game, and he had a bad read on his trust level with Teeny.
What's funny is Teeny's the one who got caught with their hand in the cookie jar, right?
Yep.
But if everyone is on Teeny's side about it, that's a Rome problem. It's it's Rome, and we got the supercut. I mean, the guy is a professional rapper. He's a podcaster. He could have played in the NBA based on his quickness and his agility.
Even though he stopped playing when he was in high school.
And you know what? When he gets voted out of Survivor, I bet he'll say, "I could have won Survivor."
I really wanted to give it to Teeny, just because I feel like we already know Rome, or at least they already kind of knew Rome. So I don't know if this supercut does a whole lot to his game. I don't think it changes a ton. I think it's just shown to us a lot more. Whereas with Teeny, there was a for sure the person who is on your side who seems to kind of be tainted now in Rome. And Keyshawn's there. I don't think that's going to matter a whole lot, but there are a lot of people getting mixed up with just like this really bad scenario. Yeah, I probably can't give it to Teeny though. So I'll go Rome. It's boring, but fine.
I believe it was TK. There might have been 2 people who said it in this episode. They said Survivor is never as simple as it seems. I think it was Sam and TK both said iterations of this. You know what? Sometimes Survivor is as simple as it seems, and if you don't believe it, why don't you ask John Lovett, who overplayed his 10-2 offsuit last week, right? So I mean, it's a tough situation, but I mean, I think it's got to be Rome.
We did get a late question in regarding this actual topic between Teeny and Rome. It was from Brandon on Twitter asking, could Teeny have taken the idol since Rome had actually like he had already opened the box, but just left it there. He didn't do it. He didn't make a decision with the idol. He didn't make a decision with the clue. It was just sitting there, just waiting.
You know, unless it is specifically stated in the rules, if TD had gone for it, I bet you production will let them try, like go for it. I bet.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I very rarely do this anymore, but I'm going to refer you to the On Fire podcast. I don't know if they're going to talk about it there, but we'd have to go to the rules on this one, I think, because given that the beware advantage is his and the bad stuff is his, is it possible for someone else to steal that idol and for him not to be able to reclaim his vote? I know we talked about this a little bit, I think, with Austin in 45.
Yeah, so I think if you hide the idol, but you had taken possession of it at some point, it's yours. So I'm guessing you couldn't steal it. Yeah, I that would be my guess.
I think, yeah. Since Derek mentioned, he gets all the bad stuff. Like I could see that it's his to still make a decision on.
Let's get into who's going next. Derek, why don't you start us off over on the Gata tribe in yellow? Who is going next on that tribe?
I have Annika going next on the Gata tribe. Sam and Andy seem to be vibing. Sam and Sierra seem to be vibing. That's 3 out of 5. Annika hasn't got the hardware. Annika's going to try and call out a showman's duo, forgetting that that's 2 plus a very desperate Andy. And I'm just going to take baseline Survivor here, that if someone's going to cause you that much of a headache, you're just going to vote her out. So I'm Annika.
It makes sense. I'm sticking with Andy, but I'm sticking with him very loosely right now. I think that 4 still can work together, as it's almost like 2 duos at this point. But I can see more and more Sam's reasoning for wanting to bring in a third. I just still don't trust Andy. I don't trust that Andy can keep a level head, and when Tribal comes around again, something is probably going to happen that might freak out Sam and Sierra and cause them to go back to the other duo.
Josh, you're right. It's pretty much entirely on Andy. I do think Annika will go next. That's my guess. I just bad vibes from Annika. I think she's done.
Sam is already juggling the balls. He wants to light them on fire and continue this circus act.
Josh, take us over to Lavo, the Red Tribe. Who's going next on Lavo?
So Rome was what I answered last week. He cashed in his idol. It's good for one tribal. He's gonna use it. So I'm not picking Rome here. I'm gonna go with someone who we haven't seen a whole lot from so far, and that's Genevieve. Not a whole lot. It feels like Asia, Teeny, Keyshawn, they might have something going on here with Alliance. We don't know a whole lot about Lavo yet, but just in general, not a whole lot of Genevieve going on, so I'm going with her.
Yeah, what I think is going to happen is, because last week when we were showed Genevieve, her only real content was like how she liked Rome. She's the only person who seems to like Rome. I would imagine Asia, Keyshawn, Teeny, and Soul stick together. They can't take out Rome. Who's Rome closest to? Genevieve. Genevieve goes out. So that's my pick as well.
That was my exact reasoning. Knowing that Rome probably has to play the idol, they're not going to target Rome. I don't think they would target Soul. Soul seems to be at least okay with everyone. Yep. We haven't seen enough, like Josh said, of Lavo. But yeah, take out the person closest to Rome to kind of leave him powerless at that point.
He was with the crew spying on Rome last time.
Yep.
Over on Tuku, you know what? This one is tricky. You could just say, is Kyle just default going next? I feel like everyone really likes Kyle. So I don't know if he'll go next. This is a tough one. I'm just going to go with my gut and say that Caroline will try and get the women together to save Kyle, and maybe they'll knock out Gabe. But I really don't have a good feeling on this one. So shot in the dark. Maybe some people still don't trust Gabe. I'm going to go Gabe.
I think that Gabe is in a good spot. I'm going with Kyle, but if it's not Kyle, I think it's going to be the other floater, which would be Tiana. So Kyle first, but man, I was tossing up Kyle or Tiana. Like, hey, we used Tiana for what we needed her for. She wasn't willing to talk strategy. I think Kyle is probably better socially than her and will be able to assimilate if he wants to. And that would leave Tiana on the outs again, as the only person who really wasn't connecting with anybody. And identified again as the floater at the beginning of this episode. So I'll go with Kyle, but could be Tiana.
Yeah, I think Gabe really solidified his spot here by, one, showing the idol to Caroline, but then also playing it at Tribal and just getting that off his back. No threat anymore. Ideally, if he makes himself nice and suspicious later on, well, that's another thing. But I think as far as the next vote goes, I feel like any sort of target would be off his back. I went with the default of Kyle.
Okay. All right, let's check in with who can't win this game. I believe last week we all said Andy for some reason.
Yeah, for some reason.
Derek, start us off. Do you still have Andy or somebody else in that spot?
No, at the beginning of this episode, he goes and finds the Beware advantage, and you yourself, Ryan, said that he needs to find a way to do two things at once for it to be the right move. If you find yourself needing to do two diametrically opposed things at the same time after the first vote out, you are in a tough spot. No one did anything to fall below Andy this week. Say what you want about how obnoxious Rome is being. If you were to put them in a final two right now, at least Rome was out there playing the game and not blowing up other people's spots and not being like publicly unhinged. And this is with all respect to Andy and understanding the toll that mental health can take out there, but it's still Andy.
Josh?
Yeah, it's still Andy for me. Ask me again in like 4 episodes and we might have more information to be able to move this onto Rome. But I need to see more from Andy first rather than seeing more from Rome to bring him below Andy, if that makes sense.
And to further support really quickly, the second Andy was alone, his thoughts started spiraling again. Those ghosts have not left.
And they probably won't either.
When the cheering and the applause for him opening the coconuts dies down, he is left with nobody but himself. And that person is not stable yet. And I can't trust that.
I agree with everything you guys say, except for the part where Rome beats Andy in a final two. I'm moving Andy up. Rome is going down to the bottom. So Rome is the prime person who cannot win this game. I just think nobody likes Rome. And at least some people like Andy.
Yeah.
And the social game wins out. At final two, Andy, Rome, Andy wins. Neither of these two could win the game in all honesty, but I do think in a final two, Andy would beat Rome.
It's the difference between people not liking Rome and people being annoyed with him. I don't think it's that people dislike him. I think it's that he's hard to live with because he's annoying more than anything. But classic Ryan, just whatever the trend of the episode is, that's who's going to be the person who can no longer win the game.
I can't believe I'm doing this, but Ryan, I want to ask your opinion about the final two in Survivor Thailand.
Brian
and Clay, because Clay is more well liked
by some people.
By some people, and I would argue the majority of that jury. But Brian played the louder, more strategic, heavy game involved game.
No. Brian was more liked by the majority.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean Penny, Ken, and Aaron all liked Claymore, so they voted for him. But Jake, Helen, Jan, and Ted all liked Brian more, so they voted for Brian.
Based how the edit perceived them, though, I was much less offended by Clay than I was by Brian, and I feel like
that's fair.
By the way, I'm not comparing Rome to
Clay and Brian
to Brian directly. I'm just talking about like if you've got two people in a final two, like one who's more liked and one who's kind of more of a villain. We've seen this before.
I think Brian was more liked by more people. And then until after the game, post game, Clay was more liked.
And by the way, I'm not gonna fight with you two. You're allowed to have your opinion on this. I'm not gonna push you too hard on it.
My correct ass opinion?
Absolutely not. This podcast is a democracy, and Josh and I reign supreme today.
Hooray!
Stop the steal.
Oh boy!
You guys probably didn't see this since you're not on Twitter, but after the vote was cast last week, John Levitt tweeted out "Stop the steal."
That's great.
But Derek has his own segment tied to who can't win, and it's called "Stick a Fork in 'Em." And this is because Ryan and I have been arguing for seasons and seasons about the correct way to play who can't win. And I talk about longevity, I talk about edit, I wrap everything in, and I'm willing to stick a fork and say, no matter what happens, this is not your season. As Jeff would say, there's some people on this season who can't win just based on everything. I'm adding 2 new names. I had already stuck a fork in Andy last week. I have 2 more forks to stick.
Wow.
Rome. Annika. I am sticking a fork
Annika.
I'm sticking a fork in all 3 of them. None of them are winning this game.
All right. So we have a final 3 of Annika, Rome, and Andy. Who wins?
I think Annika right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a little early for Annika.
I'm having fun here, man. I'm having fun. The vibes.
I mean, good for you.
This is my segment, and
I just disagree.
Annika is giving forth a certain level of negative energy that reminds me a little bit of Jen from Worlds Apart.
Okay.
Worlds Apart, where
Worlds Apart.
no, Worlds Apart, Worlds Apart, where everything that she is giving is more negative, or what she's presented in the edit is kind of as a heel or as the negative lens. And I don't think that is someone that they would take to the end. Jem from last season reminds me a lot of Annika in that way, where Jem was kind of negative for a lot of what she was doing or causing chaos. Even in the next week on Survivor, are you guys in a showmance?
Are you guys dating?
That's not normal behavior.
True.
So I'm sticking a fork in Annika.
Okay.
That caught me so off guard with the next time on Survivor. I thought they were talking about like did you guys know each other outside the game and were dating? And I'm just like, what? Like I was only half paying attention to that part. So
Now watch.
really weird.
Now watch. Annika is telling a story about her friends back home, and we're all getting.
We could totally get Franken edited here for sure.
Yes.
Let's get into the Survivor pool. Let's check in there. Last week, Josh, who did you have in the pool?
So I picked Soul, Derek picked Gabe, and Ryan picked Rome. And also a quick shout out to the people who ended up sending us a couple of messages this week. A few listeners of the podcast who are participating in the Survivor pool. I'm not going to read out, who all they all picked or who they have left as we keep going. But thanks for joining along. I'm keeping track of them to see if anyone out there beats us.
We'll shout out one of our very good friends, Jordan, who did listen to the podcast last weekend. His pick is Kyle. Thanks, Jordan, for texting to us. We'll see how it goes.
I think that was, retrospectively, that was a solid pick because that was before tonight's episode.
Yep, that was before tonight's episode, so he's through. Congrats to everyone who made it through. Did anyone not make it through? Did anyone?
No.
Okay.
Between us and the listeners, actually, no one was eliminated tonight.
Okay. Well, congrats to all of us. So yeah, maybe what we'll do is if anyone who writes in, if they lose, we'll shout them out.
There you go.
But yeah, we're all through. So Josh, who are you picking next in the Survivor pool?
I think this is a great opportunity to pick Sam. I think that he has the potential to go really far in this game, but he could also flame out really early, and I don't know which way it's going to be yet. I just know it's very unlikely that it's going to be this next episode. So I'm going with him. I'm going to burn him a little early, but I'm okay with that.
Sam has idol. I pick Sam.
And honestly, the idol had nothing to do with my decision here. And I know it had 100% of your decision. So whatever.
Wow, I could theoretically win this week.
You could.
I'm picking Rome because I think there's no way bro doesn't play his idol.
If I hadn't picked Rome last week, I'd pick Rome this week.
Now, I am sad that I've burned Gabe because, man, oh man, what we got in episode 1. I am feeling so much better about his chances after episode 2. I wish I had him still. But, hindsight's 2020. I'm picking the other person who seems to be like a gimme gone once their idol is gone.
I feel like I'm always going to be too scared to pick Gabe. I just feel like he's someone who could go at any minute. He could go a long way, but I just feel like one thing goes wrong, he's out.
And the only reason why I didn't pick Rome is because I don't think Red's going to Tribal Council. So, they seemed really strong this week, last week, all that stuff. So,
if you don't think Red is going to Tribal Council, why wouldn't you pick Rome?
Well,
because I know Rome is... Yeah, Rome has his idol. So if I think he's not going to Tribal next week, I'll pick Sam this week. Then who knows? Maybe Rome the week after.
I like the logic.
There's definitely strategy to it. I'd rather get Rome on my used column sooner.
Completely understand.
Yep. All right. Well, that is episode 2. This was a fun episode. We'll see how it goes next time. Social media.
Yeah, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Castaway Pod, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok is Castaway Consultants. We're going to be posting all of our videos there. Just a heads up on YouTube, if you are a new subscriber there are 2 playlists and 2 videos that get posted just the way that posting podcasts and feeds work. So there is an audio only version that goes up immediately when the podcast is posted. And then there's going to be a video episode that gets posted following that after, we get a chance to edit on the video and everything. But that will always come second. So if you looking at our beautiful faces,
and why wouldn't you?
That is going to be available just usually like a day later.
You can admire our beautiful microphones and pop filters,
Ooh.
Or maybe you like our faces. I don't know why anyone would. We're nothing special to look at. At least
Speak
not
for yourself, man.
I am speaking for myself. Low visual self-esteem. I'm better to be looked at in 480p. So Josh, I want to see in person, but I'm more of a a 480p kind of guy, or a 240p OG YouTube videos. So Spotify, again, can't post polls or comments on that right now. So it's just kind of a generic, please respond here. If you do respond, just know that we're reading them. And if we really like the comment, we will absolutely read it out. And if you leave a review on the podcast, this is most commonly done on Apple Podcasts, and it's 5 stars and appropriate. We will read it out. Yep. So feel free to do that. Other than that, if you have someone who loves Survivor and they like podcasts, just tell them about us. Tell them to give us a shot. We're happy to just be a part of our own little ecosystem here.
I've been busy trying to recruit all my coworkers at work to watch Survivor, and slowly but surely I'm pulling them all in one by one.
Yeah. And by the way, RHAP got the shout out last week. On Fire got the shout out this week.
It's our turn.
So the only thing that has to happen now is Castaway Consultants. And you know what? I'm guessing that Gabe is going to do it. I think Gabe listens to us. I can't prove it, but I think Gabe's a listener.
Okay. All right, guys. Anything else?
No.
All right. This has been the Castaway Consultants.
Got nothing else for you.
Good night.